Sorry about that. All right. Good morning, everyone. And I want to welcome you to our second Black History event. Sorry for the delay. We've been getting a little things here and there together. So hold on just a second. I'm trying to find one quick thing. Okay. The topic that we're going to be discussing this morning is, well, if I could find the correct title, I would tell you. Here we go. Navigating Troubled Waters, How Businesses Survive COVID-19. As many of you know, we are in a crisis right now, and we are doing our very best to get through it. But COVID not only has hit individuals and individual families hard, it has also hit businesses hard. Despite all that, we have had a number of businesses that have managed to pivot and continue to strive and survive through all this. And so we're going to talk about how they've been able to do that. And they're going to give you tips of what they've managed to do, how they've managed to get through it. And then we'll also be able to take some questions from you. So as we do this discussion, we're asking that you put your questions in the chat box, and then we'll answer them as we go through. But we're going to first give our panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves and to talk a little bit about what their business is and how they do that. So I want to introduce our panelists today. We have Andre Hopwood, who's owner of Conscious Kitchen. We have Annetta Waters, who's with Annetta Beauty Bar and Salon. We have Jerome Jones, who's with the Small Business Administration. And we have Troy Parker, who's with Innovative Labor and Cleaning Services. So I'd like to thank all of you for being with us today. So let's first start off with, I'll start off with Andre. Andre, first tell us a little bit about your business and how COVID has affected your operation.
Well, the name of my business is Conscious Kitchen. It's a full service restaurant. We seat about 50 people when we're full. Our menu, I call it a transitional menu. So basically we offer healthy alternatives to people that are transitioning to a healthier diet. A lot of restaurants are either A or B. They're either vegan or not vegan. Basically we don't offer any red meat, but we have turkey, chicken, and lots of vegetarian and vegan options. So wherever you are at in your dietary journey, in order to start eating healthy, we can actually meet you there with some delicious food. So that's we've been in operation for about 7 years now. Now, with that being said, COVID definitely has made a gigantic impact on us as far as the restaurant industry. When I said we were able to fill up a room of 50 customers during our lunch, that had to be cut in half. Well, at one point it was no dine-ins. It was only takeouts only when we had a lot of the restrictions going on, the government mandates in order to get everything under control. So naturally all our numbers dropped, sales dropped, which definitely had an overall effect on everything from payroll to, my life, my family. It affected everything. So I don't know how much further you would like for me to go into that as far as what we did to pivot, but that's what we did. We're definitely have a following which have supported us through this period, but COVID, with just only being able to do takeouts and deliveries, definitely had a drastic effect on our overall sales.
Okay, thanks, Andre. Annetta, as someone who runs a beauty bar and salon, I know that industry as a whole, when COVID first hit, was really hit hard because of the fact that you all were really limited. Well, at first you all, I think my understanding is you all were actually forced to close at one time because you all could not have any clients at all. So can you talk a little bit about how that affected you and then how you were able to get your operation back up and running?
Okay, so I'm Annetta Waters, the owner of Annetta's Beauty Bar. So it was challenging for me because it's more like an incubator type of salon. It's independent contractors running a business inside of the salon. So it impacted all of our lives. So we went from, working culturally, a Black salon, you always have guests, we make money, but we went from, and me especially, generating zero revenue and not being able to even get booth rental. So we had to really adjust using the products that we had to kind of transition to e-commerce. So it really was a great thing, because as I transition my business, e-commerce is really important, as the businesses grow within the next couple of years. But we were able to kind of sell products and use our social media to network with clients, if that answers your question.
Mm-hmm. It
Okay.
does. Troy, let's go to you. As part of Innovative Labor and Cleaning Services, how did COVID impact your operation?
Well, we slowed down like many other industries, but since we do temporary staffing and final cleaning in the construction space, so since we were in the construction space, we were kind of sheltered because construction only slowed down; it didn't stop. But we went from having 100 and around 20 employees in the fourth quarter of 19 down to like 65, and then it dropped even further to around 45. What we did was quickly pivot and begin offering COVID cleaning to our construction customers, where I would market to them, hey, clean the portalets. That's the one thing all the workers use. You might want to get the portalets fogged and sprayed and disinfected. We offered to clean trailers. Now, a lot of them didn't take us up on it at first. It wasn't until they started getting the first couple of COVID outbreaks and they had to shut the site down. Then they started saying, okay, hey, come clean the trailer. So we were able to pick up more revenue in that area, but still other areas, because construction pipelines had slowed down. We still did slow down, but we did ramp back up to like 65 people now. But that was our big pivot to go to basically offering COVID, cleaning, disinfecting, things like that.
So I'd like to, before I bring Jerome in to talk about from the SBA aspect of other things that can go on to help people out through this, as three independent owners, what was the biggest challenge you all faced once COVID hit? What was the biggest challenge you faced in trying to get your business to keep operating and to keep pushing through?
Yeah, I can answer that. I would say funding. I mean, after all, you got to keep the dollars rolling in to keep the doors open. My biggest challenge, I wanted to keep all my employees. I mean, I went from a staff of 17 to several months into the pandemic down to a staff of 8. And I was trying my best to hold on to the entire 17 because we were like family. We basically see each other more than we've seen our families. So that was the biggest challenge, just trying to keep everything together, trying to keep my employees together, while all at the same time, I have servers and they need tables to serve. I couldn't do that. But one of the pivots we did do, I mean, we did transition to all delivery platforms. However, one of the issues with that were the fees for those platforms. Um, so I did revert back to my grassroots, which was doing door-to-door delivery. Before I opened a restaurant 7 years ago, I used to cook out of the house and take food to barbershops and salons and different businesses. So I got a couple of employees, and that's what we did. It's like you have to pull out all stops. You couldn't think of yourself as I'm just gonna sit back and wait for something. You have to actually go get it. But the biggest challenge, to answer your question, was trying to keep my employees, trying to make sure I had enough funds to get the inventory I need, trying to get these doors open, rent, utilities. It was basically funding, because if the money stops, everything stops, and if the money slows down, everything slows down. So that was our biggest challenge.
I guess that brings me to another question is, as the head of your different companies, you have people underneath you who depend on you for their livelihood, more or less. And how were they responding to all of this as it was going on?
Well, I know for us, a lot of we deal a lot with second chance individuals because I'm a returning citizen myself. And I know when the schools shut down, we had one issue where a lot of the single mothers that work for us, they didn't have Wi-Fi, which is something I just took for granted. But simple things like that. So we help, a lot of people, get Wi-Fi, and then, bought computers so their children could go to school because I mean, our theory, me and my wife, was we didn't want, minority, kids to fall behind, but also people were worried about paying their rent, and just food was an issue. So we started setting up programs where, the people who were no longer, that weren't working, we were giving them, like, food cards from Kroger's, every couple of weeks. And then you were trying to basically alternate people, like one person might work Monday, Tuesday, and then bring someone else to work, Wednesday, Thursday. So they might not be getting the same amount of that they normally got, but they were at least getting some money. And then, we were also assisting them with the food cards and things like that.
So, what resources did you reach out to in order to get funding or whatever you needed to keep your head above water?
Well, I got help from, of course, Jerome with the Small Business Administration. He always helps me out. Nicole Picard, Senator Portman. I mean, in a way, the pandemic was a blessing because prior to the pandemic, being a convicted felon, a bank would not lend me money. So when the pandemic happened, it was kind of God sent because now I was able to get money, as a line of credit to help run the business, and Jerome helped me with that, and it's helping me still currently. So that was one resource. Then through the publicity we got, from getting the PPP, other resources started popping up. Other, grants became available. People donated money. So, we got help from a lot of different agencies in the community.
Annetta and Andre, were you all also able to get any type of resources, use any resources to help your businesses?
I was able to, and I know I email Nicole Picard a lot. I always bother Miss Ella, but I think cultivating relationships before the pandemic even happened really helped me to reach out, talk to people I developed relationships with. It really helped me to figure out what was coming out, first. It had me at the top of the list. So I'm really thankful for the relationships that I developed with different organizations. ECDI helped me a lot with just information. So the organizations like ECDI are really great to be a member of.
Andre, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I like to piggyback off that. We did receive PPP. We applied for the EIDL, which is now under reconsideration, but the SBA definitely was a huge help, and I'll go ahead and echo the name Nicole, extremely helpful. But like what Annetta said, those relationships, I just remember just as an entrepreneur, always doing studying about different people that are successful, and they said that for successful millionaires, their currency is relationships. And that really panned through during these times because just like the title, Navigating Through Waters, those relationships was like our compass. It's like was able to lead me to the directions I need to go when all I saw was thunderstorms. But yeah, definitely Nicole, and just being up to date, checking in with the news, getting updates about the different things that's going on with state and federal. This particular time to navigate, you really had to be more aware. Whatever your weaknesses are, you had to focus on them and make them a strength. So if your weakness was bookkeeping, talking to people, networking, you had to make that your strength. And whatever your strengths were, you had to amplify them. So definitely relationships. Without those relationships, it makes it tough. So that's something that I knew before, but it's been even more emphasized as a business owner to get through troubled times. You definitely need that type of support through people that actually know what they're doing and that can help.
Hey, Jerome, this is where I want to bring you in because your name got mentioned a couple of times, as well as Nicole Picard. And for those who are listening, Nicole Picard is the contact in Cincinnati with the Small Business Administration. She's a great person to know and to have in your back pocket because she is a wealth of information. But Jerome, talk a little bit about how the SBA has been able to step in and help these small businesses, especially at this critical time.
Sure, sure. So, and as been mentioned a couple of times, the PPP program, Paycheck Protection Loan Program, has been probably the most widely utilized program as part of the CARES Act. And as the name states, it is meant to protect the paychecks of employees and business owners. So by providing funding based upon your need, we are now into our second round of PPP funding. And if Andre hasn't jumped on that, particularly in your industry, please do. Now, one of the changes in the program is that on the second draw, you have to demonstrate a 25% reduction in gross receipts or your revenue from the top line. Typically right now, that's not that much of an issue. It has to be, per calendar quarter, or you can do it annually if you don't want to do it per calendar quarter. So again, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but please reach out to Nicole or myself if you have further questions on that. There's also the EIDL loan program, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, which Annetta mentioned, and that's all online through the website covid19relief.sba.gov. So it's not at SBA, it's .sba.gov, in which you can receive funds as part of the stimulus package as well. That's actually handled by the Office of Disaster Assistance. It's not handled by the SBA, but they can definitely help you as well. And one thing I want to mention about the Economic Injury Disaster, or EIDL loan, as we call it, there is now a targeted advance. So if you applied for the EIDL, and this would have had to have been April, May, or June of last year, when they had a grant portion, which we call the advance. If you received funds from that, and let's say you only received $2,000, you may qualify for an additional $8,000, up to 10 max. And they will reach out to you directly. If you applied and were approved for the EIDL advance, but didn't receive the funds because the money ran out, $20 billion sounds like a lot of money until 10 million people asked for it, so it did run out. But you may also be targeted to get additional funds for the grant portion. You cannot apply, however. They will reach out to you directly if you qualify. So just want to mention that. There is also, go ahead.
There's a couple of questions. One is they want you to repeat the website, but they want to know if you were denied, can you reapply?
You can reapply. They call it the reconsideration process. I think I did mention that too. So you can, and I would reach out to them directly. You may have information in the email before you decline, but the number is 800-659-2955. And the website, once again, is COVID, COVID 19 relief, RELIEF .sba.gov. Another thing I want to mention, if you do have an existing SBA loan, we are offering payment relief on that loan in the form of 3 months of payments. The SBA is making the principal and interest payments on SBA loans. And it could be a micro loan, it could be a SBA 7A guarantee loan or a 504 loan. All of our SBA loans, we're paying 3 months worth of your payments. And if you are in a particular NAICS code, and I know accommodation and food services, one of those things, we can make an additional 5 months of principal and interest payments. So some big relief coming there. And we're coming soon, we have a shuttered venues grant program. So coming soon.
It sounds like the SBA is doing a lot to help small businesses, which we know is the lifeblood of the economics that go on with any city, that the SBA is doing a lot to try to help these small businesses stay afloat.
That's what we do. That's why we exist.
So, Troy, you talked about the fact that the connections you had with the SBA and working with Jerome were really beneficial to you. What was the ability of getting these funds? How were they able to help you stay afloat during this pandemic?
Well, well, first, I also would want to mention one other resource I forgot is the African American Chamber, because Eric Kearney there at the Chamber is the one who connected me with Nicole. And so he has been, I mean, the Chamber has been a big help. But to answer your question, getting those funds allowed us to, one, I mean, we always had a cash flow problem because one, coming out of being incarcerated, I couldn't get a loan. Even once I got the business growing, a bank didn't want to take a chance. So I would pass on a lot of jobs that we normally, you know, if I had a line of credit, could have taken. So once I got the PPP, I was able to take customers that normally I wouldn't have, because everyone once the pandemic hit, they were paying slower. They were definitely going to pay net 30, net 45, where prior to that, a lot of our customers would pay us every 2 weeks or every week. So just right in time when they started, you know, saying, hey, Troy, we're not going to be able to pay you, you know, things slow down every week or every 2 weeks, we got the PPP. So we were able to wait the 30 days, 45 days, which is normal in construction. So it gave us that lifeline. And there's some employees we had, as an older lady I had that worked in the office, and she, you know, has some health issues. It was too much of a chance to even have her keep coming into the office. So I had her work from home and still kept her, you know, employed, and, you know, got a computer and set her up at home. So it allowed us to do a lot of things. We do a lot of personal development training. I would have meetings and, you know, talk about, you know, improving your self-image, setting goals, bring in a banker to talk about opening a bank account, start saving money. Well, those now have been turned to digital. So, I mean, like, you know, videos. So now they're on LinkedIn, some of them. We email them to our employees. So they're still getting the information, but that I was able to use the money for that also.
Annetta, can you talk about how making these contacts and things were able to help you get your business back operating, and what the difference is pre-pandemic as to post-pandemic?
So can you repeat that question for me?
Yeah, I'm just wondering how your business has had to change prior, you know, you had this flourishing business going before the pandemic hit. Then you were forced to close. Now you're back open. What has changed in terms of how you're having to operate today? And how has the connections you've made helped you be able to open your doors and do what you need to do now?
Okay, so I think that the main thing was health. So we had to adjust to limiting how many people could be in the salon, and we were able to go up on our prices. So also with the relationships that I cultivated with Mortar, Score, I was able to sit down and really learn not only, you know, funding, I was able to retain different knowledge from the virtual programs. It was so much that I was able to learn. Hopefully that answers the question.
Well, I'm just wondering, you know,
well
because you
enough
said
for
that
you.
you hire people who, your bar involves hiring people who work underneath you. So that means you have different stylists that come in and they rent their space out of your space and that kind of thing. So did you have to train them also on what they have to know how to do? And were you able to bring everybody back that used to work in that rented space from you before, or has all that changed, or how have you had to do that? I'm just curious.
Okay, so no, that's fine. I just want to make sure I answer it with it okay correctly or for you to understand. So we had to make adjustments. So going back to us meeting before I opened the salon back up, making sure that everybody understood how serious it was for us to protect ourselves and our clients. You know, some people didn't believe that coronavirus was real. So we had to make sure that we didn't compromise anybody's health. Everybody did not come back. But everybody who did come back was on board to make sure that everything was set up for the comfort and the safety of everybody.
Okay. Andre, as you look back over the last few months, well, it's been, somebody told me the other day, it's been almost a year, which seems unreal that we've been in this pandemic almost a year. What were the biggest lessons you've learned from all of this?
Ooh, the biggest is so many. I would say one thing that kind of hindered, similar to some of the things that Troy spoke about, was my inability to be able to go to my bank. Just because I've never really focused in on my credit score, something that I've been procrastinating on. You know, I think just it's kind of like a thing, especially in it's not an excuse, but our Black communities, we just have not really been financially educated. It's definitely getting better, but just historically, it's a lot that we don't know. So one of my biggest lessons wasn't even just credit score, just the financial literacy period that goes along with running a business, all the nooks and crannies of it, making sure that every single dollar has a purpose. I mean, it wasn't that I was frivolous before, but when, you know, when you're broke and you don't have any money, it's like even you count quarters, you know, you count pennies. So when it came to the business, every single dollar that I had to really have a purpose. And that principle has stuck with me, and it's something that I intend to carry on even further. So the financial aspect, and I keep mentioning finances because that's what's been hardest hit. And after all, you know, once we are able to secure funding and things, it kind of gives us a little breathing room to operate our businesses, open our doors, and things of that nature. So one of the biggest lessons, financial literacy, getting to know everything it takes to be able to be in the best position to get financial assistance when you need it, and also the knowledge of the who's who in your community, the different senators, the different congressmen, the different city councilmen, because they're all are supposed to have your back and have your, you know, be able to assist you as far as a small business. Like it was once stated in the conference already that small businesses are the backbone of America, period. So with that being said, politicians have to be able to back up what they say. And it doesn't matter who you are. A lot of times we feel, you know, we're more challenged in our communities. We don't, the wealth gap is there with Black families. We feel like they won't listen or we might not have a chance. No, get on the phone, you know, find out who's where are they at, who promised what, and start making them live up to what it is that they say they're going to do. So those are some of the biggest lessons that I learned from this past year.
Hi, Andre, Valeria, to all of our panelists, Troy, Annetta. I'm finally able to get on. I was having a bit of computer trouble. But what I wanted to ask each of you is, what would you tell your pre-pandemic self? So if you could go in time before the pandemic and give yourself one piece of advice to help you weather this storm, what would that be, Annetta?
Hey, Nicole.
Hi.
So I would tell Annetta just to have faith because it was a global pandemic and the SBA wasn't prepared. The systems, I feel like it ended up working out. be prepared for anything and be willing to adjust, because adjustment is good. Growth is good.
That's good advice. Andre, how about you?
Kind of the same thing. I would say make sure that you prepare for anything. A lot of times we, as entrepreneurs, we look week to week, month to month, but who knew it would be something like this that may take place that will affect the whole entire planet. So with that being said, our businesses are our babies. So I would tell my pre-pandemic self, hey, you never know what is going to happen with this baby. You don't know what it might catch, what sicknesses, what flus, what it might need. So be prepared to take care of it. Have that backup reserve funds. Have that, like I mentioned, that credit score. Pay attention to what's going on in your industry in every aspect. Just don't focus on, like in my industry, how I can get the best food at the quickest amount to my customer. No, it's way more than that, and that is with any industry, whether it's the hair. It's so much more to what it takes to run a business. So my pre-pandemic self, I would say definitely be prepared for whatever situation may come. Know that you'll be prepared to weather the storm, so that you won't have to scramble when that tornado is at your door.
And Andre, you said something earlier that I think I want to build off on for the listeners. You mentioned that there's more to being in business than the actual running of the business itself. You said that there was understanding financials, that there was understanding the actual propelling of the business itself. I want to kind of pivot a little bit to Deborah Davis, who is with the Minority Business Assistance Center, which is housed in the African American Chamber. Can you tell me about one of the programs that maybe you are involved with specifically that helps people run their business and not just actually be in business?
Okay, hi. Thank you so much, Nicole, for bringing me into the conversation. So what we have at the Minority Business Assistance Center, as I was stating to Annetta earlier, there are 7 Minority Business Assistance Centers across the state of Ohio. The center that I manage covers 17 counties through Southern Ohio. So we are in Appalachia as well as in Greater Cincinnati. The services that we provide certification. So if you want to be MBE, EDGE, WBE, our Veteran Business Enterprise certifications, certified, we provide those certifications. We also provide access to capital. So we have a loan program. We have several products that we offer at a very low interest rate to business owners that qualify for the loans with the state of Ohio. Now, we work with you. We understand the plight of minority-owned businesses, the challenges that minority-owned businesses have in accessing capital. So as the Minority Business Development Division, the state of Ohio, which is over all the centers across the state, they understand what the challenges are. So they work with minority-owned businesses. That is one of the reasons why the interest rate is at 3%. It is a low interest rate. We also have a collateral enhancement program where if you are MBE certified with the state of Ohio, they will put up 50% of that collateral, work with a bank to get the other 40%, and you as the business owner would need to put up 10%. So there is some skin in the game for you there. So we have various loan products. We also have procurement services that we offer where you can get contracts with the state of Ohio. We are in every county in the state, 88 counties. So each county, we have commissions, we have bureaus. We also have a document, the name of it escapes me at the moment, but in this document, you can go through, we can sit down with you and go through and see what contracts are available throughout the state of Ohio for every agency. So for example, Troy, you are interested in working with people who are reentry. Well, we have there's contracts with the correctional facilities across the state of Ohio that you may be interested in getting a contract with them. That's also a part of the procurement process in some of the contracts that we have. So if you go to procure.ohio.gov. That's procure.ohio.gov. You can see all the contracts are available. We do recommend that you sign up to be a vendor with the state of Ohio so that you can then start getting notifications about contracts that are available. You will be invited to the Ohio matchmaking event where you can then meet one-on-one with all of the procurement directors for each agency. And in the, God, I almost got the name, but in the document that I'm referring to, it has a list of all of the names and emails, phone numbers of the procurement officers for those specific commissions or agencies. And we recommend that you go directly to them and pitch your business. Even if there isn't a contract available for you at that time, there may be one down the road. So it's best to start developing that relationship. So Annetta, you're in the beauty business. We have, as you know, there's the cosmetology board. There may be contracts available for them. So there are contracts available across the board. So if you're MBE certified, you will be in a sheltered bidding competition versus with the general public. So those are some of the other things that we have. We also offer webinars. We have a technical webinar series coming up. It starts on the 24th of this month. It's going to go all the way until June. We'll be looking at social media, how to do video conferencing, how to start your own podcast, how to increase your customer base, how to improve your customer service and meet your customer expectations. These are all technical webinars that we'll be having starting, like I said, the 24th of this month. And then we have outreach programs as well, because like I said, we cover 17 counties. So we do a lot. We work with all of our strategic partners, the Small Business Administration, City of Cincinnati. We have ECDI, PTAC is another good source, the Department of Transportation. These are all some of our strategic partners, as well as OMSDC. So if you work with one of us, you work with all of us, basically, because if I can't help you, I'm gonna send you to the city, I'm gonna send you to SBA, I'm gonna send you to PTAC, and we're not competing with one another. Our goal is to help small, minority, and women-owned businesses. That's our goal, to help you succeed and reach the next level, whatever that level may be. One last thing, and then I'm gonna be quiet. The African American Chamber of Commerce has an executive business accelerator program that we're kicking off in March. That's another program that if you're interested in participating in, we can help you get to the next level as well. So if you're interested in the accelerator program that we have, please give me a call or email me, and I'll be more than happy to send you out information and talk to you about the program in greater detail.
Deborah, can you please put your information, your contact information in the chat for everyone to see?
Before you continue, Nicole, there was a question, and because we've been talking a lot about what we're doing, and a question came up in the Q&A, and they wanted to know if the funds that we talked about are in the Cleveland area, and do we have advice for businesses that are starting in 2020? If your business is trying to start, if you have a business that started, in 2020, what advice do you have for them? And then who can you contact for funds in the Cleveland area?
So what's the person's name that wrote that question?
It is, hold on. It is Barbara Rivers.
So Ms. Rivers, thank you very much for that question. So just to tell you a little bit how the Small Business Administration is organized, particularly in the state of Ohio. So we have two district offices, and there is a Small Business Administration in Cleveland. So I have colleagues that know what's going on in the ground in Cleveland, who have resource partners who work with their city counterparts. So please take my email address down so I can do an introduction between you and my colleague in Cleveland. And my email address is Nicole, that's NICOLE .Pickard, that's P as in person, ICKARD @SBA.gov. And I will also provide that in the chat room.
And then the second part of that question was, what advice would, and this may be something that Annetta and Andre and Troy can also talk to from their personal perspective, but they want to know, what advice would you give to businesses that started in 2020?
What type of business is it, do you know?
No, they didn't say, they just said, what advice would you give businesses that started in 2020?
I mean, if they're looking for funds or how to finance their business, like I mentioned earlier, I went to my customers. So I know I've talked to a painting company because some people have called and asked me the same question, where I suggest, getting paid quicker. A lot of companies will get paid net 30, and you really can't do that when you're just starting out unless you just have a lot of cash. So if you either ask for some upfront money, maybe if you're painting, you might ask for, a down payment, and then, when you're 50% done, ask for a little more of the money, and then the balance at the end. That'll help you so you can pay your employees. Like I asked my customers to pay, we'd work a week, we'd bill. And the key to this always is, I should add this part, you got to give them a discount. You got to make it worth their while. Well, because big companies, the Turners, the Messers, Skanska, a lot of people said, no, they'll never do it. They'll never do it. But when you tell them you'll give them 2% off or 3%, everybody likes to save money. So the key to it is, if you ask for something up front, to get paid in a different way than normal, give a little discount and people will be more receptive. And I always did it after they saw how the work was going, so let it, work a couple of days. They see, hey, okay, you're working good. Then you might mention it to them. That's what I did.
Thank you, Troy. I know for Troy, for Andre, and perhaps for even you, Annetta, that ECDI and PPP have been important resources that you've either gotten or are attempting to still get. And because the majority of the questions that I get from the public have to do with those two CARES Act resources, Jerome, I want to put you on the hot seat to go over some true or false, if you will, with the EIDL and the PPP. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay, so true or false, you cannot get both the EIDL and the PPP. You have to either get one or the other.
That is false. You can have both an EIDL and a PPP loan. As a matter of fact, we strongly suggest it. So if it is a possibility, definitely take advantage of all of the resources available to your business.
Okay, and Jerome, true or false, if I'm turned down for an EIDL for a COVID loan, I can never apply again?
That is also false. You can reapply. They call it a reconsideration, but you can definitely reapply. I believe Andre, I don't know the situation, but he is in the reconsideration process right now.
Okay. True or false, my EIDL loan will eventually turn into a grant?
I get this one all the time, at least twice today alone. No, the EIDL loan is indeed a loan. There was a grant portion that they call the EIDL advance. That's a totally separate thing. You'll know the difference because you don't have to sign any paperwork for the EIDL advance. To get the loan, you were sent paperwork that you had to sign, and it stated your terms and conditions, usually 3.75% for a for-profit business, 2.75% for a nonprofit, for a term of 30 years. So your payment's low, but it is indeed a loan.
Okay. And so this question is for Annetta and Andre and Troy. I know that both of you have had an opportunity to speak with senior SBA leadership, but I often want to ask small business owners, Annetta, hopefully something like COVID never happens again. Hopefully this is truly a once in a lifetime event in terms of the amount of impact that it had on so much of the country. But if you could give a message to SBA with regard to some of the resources that we've made available, if you could improve upon something, if you wanted somebody to hear your voice as it related to one of the programs that you applied for, or maybe even received, what would that be?
For me, and to touch on something that Andre said earlier, just understanding our socioeconomic status. A lot of us are first-time entrepreneurs. We don't have really like generational wealth. So it was a challenge. And a lot of us are really starting our businesses, and we don't have credentially some of the things that I wish we had, and I wish that they looked at us individually. I don't know, but if we were looked at and you guys understood our social economic status a little bit more. So for me, that's what I felt like.
I think that is so important. And for the second time around, and Jerome, you may want to build upon this. To your point, Annetta, one of the things that is a little bit different is if you are turned down for an idle loan, and let's say, for example, if you have overextended yourself in credit, or you may not have a credit score that is traditional for a typical loan, this time around, you do have the ability to request for reconsideration, and you can give an explanation as to what may have impacted your credit score. Because to your point, Annetta, the entrepreneur, if we're going to look at the full picture of the entrepreneur, we have to look at the entrepreneur in their total sense. And so that is someone who has more experience, or maybe a more historical longevity in a particular industry, whereas those who are newer to entrepreneurship may not have the reserves that other communities have. And so that definitely was heard. And we also want to implore to the participants and to the listeners, if you were denied in your EIDL, please work with your local SBA offices, because there is the opportunity to go back in and say why you should actually receive the loan. Now, of course, there's no guarantee for yes. And anybody who says that their guarantee is not being 100% forthcoming. But you can certainly work with your local small business administration officials to assist you in that reconsideration process.
And if I may add, Nicole,
yes.
as far as your credit is concerned, during this time, this past, almost a year now, a lot of entrepreneurs, particularly solopreneurs and very small companies, they have invested their personal resources into their business, just trying to keep it afloat. And that may have very well impacted your credit score. Now, if you can demonstrate, and again, as Nicole stated, there's no guarantees here, but if you can demonstrate that prior to all of this, your credit score was something that would have been sufficient, that is definitely a way to sway those scales in your favor, because a credit bureau report tells a story and a timeline. So if you were to say that, COVID really hurt my credit score and affected my ability to pay my personal debt, but they look at your credit bureau report and it's been like this since 2009, well, you can't blame that on COVID. So, keep that in mind too. If you can demonstrate it prior to a certain point, your credit score was X, and post that time, because of COVID, it has declined. That may very well be something that you want to bring up, an arrow in your quiver when you're trying to get the reconsideration turned around.
I just want to jump in here for a second. So everybody on the panel seems to have a different background, but similar perspective as it relates to what you've all been going through with COVID. So I guess my question to all of you is, how have you been able to take this crisis and utilize it to create opportunities for you to be more innovative? As you know, we are moving into a digital transformation era. It's estimated that by 2024, because of COVID, there are going to be system changes. And if you are not digitally prepared for that, you will be left behind, and it's really going to impact minority-owned businesses. This is a study that was CNN, I believe it was, had the study they were talking about. And so because of COVID-19, that has accelerated. So it's no longer going to be 10, 15, 20 years from now. It's actually going to be 2024, 2025, where this is really going to impact minority owned business specifically in a greater way than it would any other business. So how have you taken this experience, this crisis, flipped it around to see the opportunities? And then what are you going to do moving forward to help prepare yourself so that you are ready for the next transformation, which is the digital transformation? So for example, with Annetta, you're in the beauty industry. So I know a lot of beauticians, cosmetologists, stylists they've gone online where they're scheduling their appointments. So that's part of the digital process. But you're also looking at, do you all have a website? Because I meet with a lot of minority owned businesses that don't have websites. And in order to be able to compete moving forward, you need an e-commerce site. You need to be a part of that new supply chain, because there are going to be companies that are going to want to work with you, but they're not going to be able to because you have not made that transformation into the digital era. So Annetta, with you, let's start with you. What are some of the ways that you have taken this experience, come out with some innovative approaches, and how do you intend to move forward to prepare yourself for the digital transformation that is coming within the next 4 years?
Okay, so I have always been service-based, and when I started working with ECDI, Miss Ella Fry, she basically got me together. So that's another reason why having a membership and working with organizations that will help to grow your business are really important. So Annetta's Beauty Bar has a website. It's user-friendly, and they continuously help me to grow because I'm not tech savvy. I tell them all the time, I'm just like so perplexed about the virtual world. But having something set up for scheduling, being able to work smarter, not harder, and understanding like the time that I had off, I was able to really research the beauty industry. And it's a lot of do-it-yourself consumers now. So as I transition to e-commerce and with a different company, which is 1122, a vegan product line, I want to be able to still tap in and sell products to people who are not going to be it's not going to be the same. People are not going to be getting their hair done the same. They're not going to go to restaurants at the same capacity. So how do I tap in? And it gave me time to work with the chemist. It gave me time. I still work with SCORE to understand how to price it, but 2024, I'll be ready. So
Okay.
I'm just tapping into e-commerce and trying to sell products to people that want to do their hair on their own.
Okay. So then
I
you're
want to
looking
hear
at
Andre. I want to hear.
1 second, Valeria,
Okay.
excuse me, I'm not finished. So you're looking at the processes within your business. How can you streamline, make them leaner, make them more effective, efficient, where you can, and also provide that for all of you, it also provide that customer experience. So even though it's going to be online, you still want to have that customer experience, which is where you go into really designing that website that provides that customer experience similar to the experience that they may have walking in the door. So with Troy, Mr. Parker, from your perspective and your business, how have you utilized this time to be more innovative, to streamline your processes so that you're ready for the digital transformation? Because it is coming, whether you want it to or not. And if you're not ready, you will be left behind. That's just a given.
Well, we had started making a change. Actually, I started it probably in 2017 because, like I said, when I came out of prison and I had started my business when I was in a halfway house, I was using various apps on my phone to run it. And like T-sheets to track the employees. I used Invoice to Go to do invoicing. Then I had a big Excel schedule, and it just got cumbersome. I mean, T-sheets was costing me like $800 a month. So I began to ask myself, why couldn't all this be in one app? So I started developing, just writing it out on paper in 17. And then because money was tight, I just had to slowly get a developer and then, start building it and whatnot. So we're looking to launch the app because we got it trademarked, everything, to launch it in March, this coming March. And I pitched it a couple times the other Last week I was on Twitch Pitch and pitched the app, and I got some really good feedback. But what the app will do will connect. It'll be a platform for staffing companies. So staffing companies can join on one side, customers on another. Then the employees to the various staffing companies will be able to connect to that staffing company. A person could go on and say they want to bid from company A, B, or C. They get the bid, and they can choose it all on the app, then decide the company they want to go to, and then put the request in for workers. The workers can be dispatched out. They're tracked on GPS, so you know, okay, hey, they got, to FC Stadium at 8 o'clock. Well, one of the problems in staffing is some of my employees, they kind of struggle. They'll clock in when they're on I-75 and, at 8 o'clock, but they really didn't get to the job till 8:20. This way, it takes that all out. At the end of the day, a ticket's created, goes to the customer, he electronically okays it, instead of now with paper tickets where there can be fraud and, they'll take a 6, turn it into an 8, or, other things where the paper gets lost, then the ticket is queued, then the invoice is created at the end of the week. So it'll be an end-to-end solution connecting companies, staffing companies, and employees all in one.
Excellent. That sounds, so then your invoicing, it sounds like you no longer have to wait 30, net 60, net 90. As soon as the job is completed, you're going to be paid.
Right.
So,
well, the invoice will be created at the end of the week. Now you still might have to wait, because you get it sent to the customer. They still might make you wait 30 days. But right now, every Monday, the girl sits down at the desk right now, Miss Pat's her name, and she'll sit there and have to type out 50 invoices. The app basically allows me to could get rid of one person.
okay.
But we're just moving the person. One will go into sales. And so we're not going to get rid of anybody, but it'll streamline, make our operation basically paperless. And then it's all, in one. And then the third phase, we'll do connect it to QuickBooks.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. That's what I'm talking about. And so, Andre, same question to you. What innovative ideas have you come up with to help streamline your processes to prepare you for the digital transformation that's coming?
Okay, well, I'm definitely one of those guilty ones of having almost a non-existent presence online. And as a restaurant, people look at that and are you crazy? I really had got comfortable with organically growing my business by word of mouth. I mean, I had the blessing of being able to provide a good product and good service. So word of mouth spread, business grew, and the procrastination set in from having to do anything online, unfortunately. And so, all of us as entrepreneurs, you have that hustle spirit in you. And sometimes you might, over years, it may get complacent in certain areas. This pandemic definitely should have brought that back out, and it did with me. So it turned me to start looking at how I can really start to pivot. And that's where it comes into the idea of the online, because I noticed everyone that's in retail and things that is online, I'm like, okay, well, I'm a restaurant. How am I going to do this? First off, website. I started the process of the website, which should be the website and the app, which should be ready to launch as well in March. Okay. And with the app, I looked at that because I take a lot of online calls. Telephone calls, telephone orders. And I sat back and looked, I'm like, wow, I could be way more efficient if people can just place their orders online, free up my servers from having to answer that phone and be able to attend to customers instead of the phone and customers. So it's like all these things I'm starting to awaken and pay attention to. So that online app, I started getting creative with that. I'm saying, well, if you get the app, you're going to get discounts, but you got to get the app, which will encourage people to get the app and not call in and place orders over the phone.
Well, you want to make sure too, Andre, that you're not giving away too many discounts.
No, never.
Yeah, I mean, because you don't want to. The end of the day, you want to make a profit.
Absolutely.
But and you're not the only business owner who got caught off guard, right? Who's not ready, or who was trying to build their business organically and now realizes organic needs to be associated with some other form of, acquiring customers because of the environment that we're in. And so don't feel like, you're the only one. There are a lot of businesses out there that got caught off guard and they're now having to pivot or figure out innovative ways or creative ways to continue to build their customer base. But it sounds like you are on the right path and developing, getting that app, building up your website, you know, social media, LinkedIn, you know, everybody wants some good food. So, you know, you want to cater to the end user, the consumer, as well as the business to business, right? Because you want to associate, if you connect with another business who may not be a direct, like you have Davis cookies in, you know, in your store, right?
Yep.
That's another business. You connect with them, they're sending you your business, you're sending them their business, you're not directly competing with each other. So that's another opportunity as well. So
in addition, I'd like to say one more thing too, as far as restaurants that want to see what we can do in situations where you need a bigger online presence. Whatever your product is, find a way that you can market that online. Even if you're a restaurant, like we have salad dressings we make in-house. We have a carrot pie that we make in-house. Hopefully everybody that's hearing this will look us up and be able to start ordering from us. But yeah, so we have those things we make in-house. We have, I also looked into, which we're making a deal with, negotiating with a company in Malaysia that's going to create our own brand of coffee that's going to be alkaline. So now I'm like, okay, I'm going to put all these products on the website, on the app. So if business happens to slow up, I have other income streams online that I can stay afloat with. And that's one thing that I really have to focus on and see down in the future. Well, hey, everybody's going to be on their phones wanting to order stuff. So
right.
what can I do? Like they say, it's an attention-driven society now. Everybody is fighting for customers' attention, and most everybody's attention is on their phone or on that computer. So what can I do to make sure I get that little small bit of everybody's attention so I can keep my business going?
Well, thank you everyone for answering that question. I know it's a little lengthy question, but I think it's important for everyone to hear, especially the attendees, because this is coming. Digital transformation is coming, okay? And you don't want to be left behind. So 2024, 2025 is here. It's arrived. You know, automation, you've got drones, you've got AI, you've got all this stuff to streamline your business. And then like Mr. Parker said, you know, transitioning employees where that task may have been done by a couple of employees, you don't necessarily need to get rid of them, just retrain them and provide them with another opportunity within the business that can help your business scale. So I'm going to turn this back over to Nicole. Nicole, it's all on you now. Thank you so much for the opportunity to ask these questions.
Hey, before you start, Nicole, I just wanted to mention that what Deborah has been talking about is resonating with those who are online. We've been getting comments from people who are saying what Deborah has been asking has been resonating with people. And one person has been listening is from Dublin, Ohio, from Transcontinental University. So if you're in the Columbus area, they said that they have information there at Transcontinental University that they're willing to help small businesses in that area. So that's just something to keep in your back pocket if you're up in that area. But I just wanted to express that we're getting comments from individuals who say what you all are talking about is really resonating. And what I wanted to really hop on, and I'll let Nicole take over after this, is the fact of how Andre and Annetta are finding niches, which I think is very important to talk about, is they're finding these niches to plug into as they look at not only developing their websites, but also looking at what they need to do in order to stay relevant in their industries. Andre was talking about, you know, looking at bringing in coffees and different things. And Annetta was talking about the fact that people may not be coming as often to salons, but they want these new ways of doing their hair. And so she's been looking into the different things that are available that she can sell for people that need that type of thing. And I think that's also part of that whole pivoting that we need to look at, is how we're going to restructure what we do and how we do as we move forward into this whole digital age. Is that you've got to look at what worked before may not completely work the same way as we move forward. And that's something you have to really consider.
That's a great point, Valeria. That is an excellent point. I want to thank everyone for participating in today's Lunch and Learn. Before we conclude, I would like to mention that next Thursday, the topic for the Lunch and Learn is going to be the importance of financial literacy, lending relationships, and revenue management. And we thought that that was going to be important to kind of help to insulate small business owners in times of crises, such as COVID-19. And before we do conclude, I'd like to give all of the panelists an opportunity for some words of wisdom that you can share with today's participants. Andre, I'd like to start with you. And then Troy, and then Annetta, we can conclude with you.
Well, words of wisdom. I think even this panelists that we have, I'm looking at everyone on the panelists and looking at opportunity to network with even the people that's on the panel. So my words of wisdom is, besides what's been said, because a lot's been said that I think is great information. I think being able to pay attention to all opportunities and utilizing those opportunities to assist you in your business. It's opportunities everywhere. So I feel like if you're an entrepreneur, you know that you're going to have to take risks. You know you're going to have to get up and go. You're going to have to get up and grind. So that's just standard. So you're going to have to magnify that during times like these, when it's an economic downturn, when it's a pandemic. You're going to have to really find that intestinal fortitude to keep going, because the opportunities are there. You just have to find them. There's no such thing as no way out, no hope. It's just that you haven't found it yet. You have to keep looking, keep talking to people. You're not going to find it just sitting around. You have to get up, get on the phone, talk to other business owners, talk to the different agencies that are set up for us as business owners, and utilize those resources. But the main thing is that where there's a will, there's a way. You have to keep trying. If they say no, find out why it's a no. What can I do to change that no? There's always opportunity, and never stop. Keep going.
Great advice. Troy?
I guess my advice would be one, the piece that Annetta touched on, actually learning about how to run a business, the financial literacy. I make these videos. One was on yesterday, I was on LinkedIn, of success tips for minority businesses. And it's not because I know it all. These are just me taking all the mistakes I made and trying to help people not make the same mistakes, not get behind on your taxes. Make sure you set your business up like a business and don't run it like it's your personal bank account. A lot of people, minority businesses, came in after I'd got the PPP, and they were telling me about their businesses and why they couldn't get PPP. A lot of them, didn't have a good bank relationship. A lot of them didn't even have accountants. And I touched on some of these things in my video because Rachel Sampson with Key Bank had always told me, have a good accountant, have a good relationship with your bank, or some of the key things. So I would, if you start a business, learn actually how to run a business. Don't run it like a hobby, run it like a business. And like Andre said, you just have to stay at it. I mean, it is sometimes a little harder for African Americans, but I mean, you can still make it. Just set a goal and work each day at one thing each day to get you closer to that goal, and before you know it, you'll be there.
Thank you for that advice. Thank you so much. Annetta, could you give us the final advice? Thanks.
Yeah, so first I want to thank you guys for having me. This was a great experience. And I just want to say, Troy, I'm so inspired, like, wow. And then Andre, we get food delivered to the salon all the time. So we love Conscious Kitchen. So for me, I think that my words of wisdom would be, and this is something I don't want to keep putting Miss Ella Fry on spot, but on the spot, but for me, I've had a business since 2014, but I did not plan properly. I was not organized, and I didn't gross enough until I started planning properly. So for people who have businesses or who are thinking about starting a business, please make sure you have a solid business plan. Make sure that you have SMART goals that are time sensitive, that are realistic. You use it as a guideline, and no matter what happens, you'll be able to adjust. So having a business plan, I promise you will see success.
I love that. I love that. And everyone, there are so many resources in the Small Business Network of Cincinnati. We implore you to take advantage of those. I've seen everyone provide their emails, their phone number. If you've heard something today that you're not sure of, please reach out to one of the contacts that you became aware of for today. We will put you in the right direction. We will answer any questions that you have. And if we're not the correct contact, we'll certainly point you to that person. Valeria, Deborah, Jerome, thank you so much for your input.
Nicole, I'm sorry. I did put in the chat because Mr. Parker was talking about finances. There is a webinar coming up on February 16th, Mastering Finances for Black-owned Businesses. It's actually sponsored by SCORE. I will be attending that, and I highly recommend everyone participating today to check out this webinar. I think it's going to be fantastic.
And check out our next Lunch and Learn, which will be about revenue management and insulating yourself in times of crises. So again, thank you, everyone. Thank you for that.
Before you cut off, there was a question about, are there grants for new businesses, startups? She said because she's not qualified for the PPP due to lack of tax documents. I know there's some grants coming out with the city of Cincinnati through the Urban League. Those are supposed to be coming out either the end of February, the beginning of March. But I know tax documents are important for whatever grants or loans or things that you need. So I would check with the Urban League or GCMI about their upcoming grant program, but not the lack of tax documents. I think is a hard hurdle to overcome. Jerome, you might want to talk about that. If you don't have tax documents and you want to get a grant or a loan, is there a way to get around that?
No way of getting around taxes. They need some basis for you to follow. And to, I don't know if it was Troy who mentioned, or Andre, or everybody, that you have to, if you're going to be in business, you have to get your finances together, your personal finances and your business finances. They are all intertwined. And now would be a good time to start getting that in order if you don't already have it in order.
How big of a grant was she looking for?
It doesn't say. It just said that she wanted one. She couldn't get a PPP because of lack of tax documents. That's all it said. So she wanted to know if she could qualify for a grant. And I'm not sure that she would be able to do that either. Also, will they be able to review this Zoom discussion, Deborah?
Yes, it's being recorded right now. It's recorded. So okay. I can send out the link. It'll also be, send out the link to everyone. It'll also be posted on our website as well.
And that's all I have, Nicole.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. We look forward to you joining us for next week's Lunch and Learn on February 18th about revenue generation, as well as insulating yourself from in times of crises. So thank you very much and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you all.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.